Okay, moving on to the meat grinder, Section 4 of the Lancaster Lebanon League. And from Cocalico, Bryan Strohl. I tell you what, it's been a pleasure to get to know you here, sir. Obviously, you're kind of the guy that's followed the legend who's really kind of, put your own stamp, on that Cocalico football program. I mean, making it all the way to a state semifinal last year. How do you top that?
Well, you go one game at a time. I mean, I know it's cliche, but I think our biggest challenge as a coaching staff this year is getting the kids to flush what happened last year, and they can remember that when they're old gray, like me and that kind of thing. But for right now, our focus is on this coming season. So, you talked about the history and following in the footsteps of Coach Gingrich and Coach Kaufman, and it's a proud tradition at Cocalico that I'm glad to be a small part of that.
Yeah, I tell you what, and I think, too, the life lesson that your team had, last year of really persevering. It had a pretty slow start, and then ultimately just kept going and going and going. What were some of the, what was the message, that you give to your team? And obviously last year or not, but what are the types of messages that you give your team so that a team can do that, come from an under 500 record to really achieve so much in the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't talk a ton about, obviously, of goals of winning championships, that kind of thing. But, we focus on one game at a time and just trying to be the best that we can be. And I think when we were 3-4, our kids could have packed it in. And I think they just wanted to keep improving. And, we had a fairly young team last year, too, that, it was nice to see them take some big steps throughout the season. And I think they had goals beyond just last season, but into this season as well, with some of those kids coming back. And, it certainly was a fun ride, that's for sure. And hopefully they learned a lot from those tough games that we had in the playoffs and from that ride that can apply to this season.
Yeah, and you talk about that. You have, a lot of returners. I mean, experience is so important in the high school game, I think. What about you?
Oh, definitely. And I think, when we had a 15-week season, and when you get those extra 5 weeks that not every team has, I think that certainly helps. It helps us get to know the kids. It helps the kids get to know our system better, get to know each other better, how to work well with one another. And, that's hard to replace. I think with that said, it was like, when you play into December, you need a little time apart too. I think the kids needed some time apart from us, and vice versa. And, once we were done with the, into the new year, it was, ready to turn the page to the next season. So kids have been working hard, really, proud of the all season that we've had. And I think they're ready to get going on Monday. I think you do the 7-on-7s, you do the stuff with the hand shields and, the workouts. And that's not always the most fun part of the game of football. And I think a lot of these kids, having had some experience, they're excited for some Friday nights under the lights.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. A game, once you have to start game planning for an opponent rather than getting ready for a season, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what's nice with the off season is you just focus on yourself. Like, whatever defense the team's playing against you when you have an interaction, you go against that, obviously, but you're not game planning, and you're just focused on your execution and focused on your kids, and I really enjoy that. Obviously, when it comes time for Warwick Week 1, that's where our focus is going to be, and we'll game plan for them, but it's nice to just kind of focus on yourselves.
You can't help but think about the fact that you have such a difficult section, and on a complete body of work. These guys mentally and physically over a 10-week period are really going to go through a lot. So how do you through this off-season program, I mean, mentally prepare these kids for the grind that they're about to face? Forget about the physical.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is, that it's going to be tough when you get into the season. I think building those relationships with the kids that if you're riding them for something, they know you care about them and they know you want them to be better. And, I think a lot of the off season is building relationships with the kids. And I think our staff does a great job with that. And we have great kids that we're blessed to coach. I think that ultimately leads to more success too, when the players want to play for the coaches and when they bonded with one another through hard workouts and that kind of thing.
Well, I tell you what, I wish you all the luck in the world. It's going to be a lot of fun watching it this year, and we'll see how things work out again. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks again for everything you do, Bruce. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. All right, more interviews as we go along.